Joe Mixon misses another day of practice. Cam Akers on the field and in action. Well, kind of. And one of the most polarizing positions remains, well, polarizing. 5 thoughts on the running back position as the pads are about to come on here in the locker room.
Hey, locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
Running back position. Questions, thoughts as the Texans, a position that's been a very popular topic in recent years, going back to really, I would say the Lamar Miller. Since Lamar Miller was signed, even that was kind of polarizing because it kind of felt like they brought in a guy and they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Then you had the David Johnson acquisition for DeAndre Hopkins. And then you've had Mark Ingram for a little bit. You've had Phillip Lindsay. You had Dameon Pierce surprise you a little bit. And then you had a bunch of journeymen. And then last year, when you expected Dameon Pierce to be the guy, it actually ended up being Devin Singletary. And now it's Joe Mixon, we think, but he's missed the last couple of days of practice. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me right here. I'll be on the field tomorrow with the padded practice going down. We do the night streams at 10:30. We've been doing the live stream straight off of the practice field as well on top of other content. So once the season gets rolling, we'll have just as much, probably more content. But right now, pretty much after practice at night and throughout the day, is when you can see me, which I guess that means pretty much all day right here. Shout out to Patty for coming through. Shout out to Gage, swarm the like button, as Cody Stutes will say. And Siraj says, what up, Lock Dog? How are you doing, my friend? I want to start with thought one on this running back position. First of all, can Mixon carry the load? He almost seems offended when you ask him this question. Last year, he had a top 10 workload in the NFL. It was a very heavy workload. He kind of held it down for the Cincinnati Bengals last year. He was really one of the most consistent parts of that roster. He comes to the Texans. He's kind of at the age where DJ Bieniemy had the interesting back and forth with him the other day about the age of running backs and the narrative and stuff like that. And Mixon said, can you name a name? Well, that's a narrative. I like Joe Mixon. I like Joe Mixon as a running back. I would have much rather had Saquon Barkley, and I think they would have as well. That was obviously plan A, but I don't think Joe Mixon is a bad pivot. I do just wonder if even if Mixon is good, and let's say Joe Mixon is close to what he's been throughout his career, which is pretty consistent, a guy who can carry the workload, is that going to be enough? Some people say, well, you have a workhorse running back, so the depth of the running back position doesn't matter. I just don't agree with that. I think you need multiple running backs that can make plays. I think you need multiple running backs that can do different things, and I just don't know that the Texans have that. Like when I this is how I'll put it, and we'll get more to this into this depth thing in a sec, but I just don't think, and God bless him, I like him, I've enjoyed talking to him, I think he's done an excellent job of putting together an NFL career that I think is closer to 10 years than it is 5, but I don't think there should ever be a case where Dare Ogunbowale is just one injury away from being on the field with your first team, which is what we saw today. I just don't. I don't think that is a good thing to have. The Indianapolis Colts, they got multiple running backs that can make plays. They got a workhorse in Jonathan Taylor. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they have multiple running backs that can make plays. They got a workhorse in Travis Etienne. The Tennessee Titans, not necessarily. They got Tony Pollard, but they also got a really good backup running back. The Texans have a guy in Dameon Pierce, which brings me to question number 2 that wasn't playable last year. I love Dameon Pierce. You love Dameon Pierce. Everybody loves Dameon Pierce, okay? He's a likable guy. He's got energy. He's got charisma. I'm a big fan of Dameon Pierce. I'm a big fan of the personality. I'm a big fan of the work ethic. I'm rooting for Dameon Pierce. I think that Dameon Pierce has done a really good job of working hard this offseason. You can see it. I think Dameon Pierce has done a good job of winning the trust of his coaches, or at least his coaches feeling comfortable enough to come out there and support him. I think the actions show that the Texans feel decent as of right now to bring in Dameon Pierce as their backup running back, but he was unplayable last year. And I know that they talk about system, they talk about how difficult it can be and all that. I mean, you see running backs come off the street all the time and produce. So when I hear all this, talk about, well, Dameon Pierce, he's going to bounce back. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that he had a disappointing year last year. Let me say it for a third time. He wasn't playable. He wasn't playable. So that's something that's something that I think is a little bit of a concern. And he's looked all right in camp. It's nothing that's really just jumping out. He's probably been the running back that's had the most moments, which might not be saying much, which we'll get to as these thoughts go on. But can Pierce be a quality RB2? I don't know. I mean, maybe he can be serviceable, but as we sit right now with Joe Mixon, and I don't think the Joe Mixon thing is serious, but even then, I think you need multiple guys. So I'm a little bit nervous about the Dameon Pierce thing as well. Is the Locker Room? Be sure to subscribe, right along. I'm Landry Locker. You can catch me right here. I'll be out there tomorrow. Me and Cody Stutes are going to drop a pregame show for the padded practice. So be on the lookout for that at about 6 a.m. I'm going to do 30 minutes with Cody. We're going to kick it to his channel, and you'll have an hour of content to take you up to the padded practice, and we'll both have the best reactions you can get after the practice concludes. Thought 3 about the running back position. Cam Akers, why? I know that Cam Akers once upon a time, we thought Cam Akers might be a really, really good running back. Then he tore his Achilles. Then he went to Minnesota. Then he tore his other Achilles, and he was on the field today. He's rocking number 22. It has no name on the back of it. We didn't see him in a team rep. I don't know what to make of the Cam Akers thing. Shout out to H-Town TD 2000. Very much appreciate the super chat. Hey, Landry, any RB seem to stand out hitting the hole or reading the lanes and reacting quicker from what you've seen? Do you feel the run game has improved, or is the jury still out? I'm going to get to that with my 5th thought, but I very much appreciate you, H-Town TD 2000. The Cam Akers thing is interesting. Like it last year, I think he averaged less than 3 yards per carry. Minnesota was a little bit of a disaster. You tear 2 Achilles. There's nothing really that today he was just going through drills pretty much, but I wonder if this is just a camp body to hold it down while Mixon's out and maybe just get a look at him. I saw, I think Lance Zierlein, shout out to Lance, said something like, he could be a good scheme fit. He has to stay healthy. Yes, he does have to stay healthy. He's obviously a good scheme fit. He's been in this system. I just look at this more as a body that you're bringing in with very, very little upside, and maybe it's just it's why is Tim Boyle here? And I'm not trying to. I mean, I like Cam Akers. I know Tim Boyle is a bad example, but Tim Boyle's here as a camp arm. I think Cam Akers might be here as camp legs, and who knows how long Mixon's going to be out. D'Amico Ryan said he's not concerned when he was asked about Cam Akers. It was his shortest. Answer of the day. Basically said Cam Akers is here to compete. And I think that's where he is. But the Cam Akers thing, I don't look at it as a major thing at all. I look at it as just perhaps a camp body, Let's get a look at him. Let's see what happens. Why not? He's been in the system, blah, blah, blah. And oh, by the way, you're not very deep at running back. Like, that's the other thing. Assuming, let's just, for the sake of worst case scenario, let's pretend that Dameon Pierce isn't playable this year like he was last. It's not like Cam Akers is coming into a situation where he's trying to compete with 3 guys to get on a roster. I mean, he's literally right now in a running back room. If you take Joe Mixon out, where in front of him he has Dameon Pierce, who was unplayable last year. He has Dare Gumbawale, British Brooks, Jawar Jordan, and other guys that you've never even heard of. So even with the Cam Akers situation and what he may or may not be, even if he's not much, unless Dameon Pierce is ahead of what he was last year, this might speak just as much to a lack of depth at the running back position as anything. And this isn't new. Like, we've talked about, having multiple running backs, and they need multiple running backs. That's been a popular talking point. I'm watching camp, and I said this when I did the first stream after the first day of camp. I said, you look at this team coming off the bus, and they look intimidating. They look like a bunch of badasses getting off the bus, like a badass football team, an intimidating football team. They look like a scary football team. But when you're watching practice in front of you, the D-line, I mean, they look the part. The edge guys, they look the part. The wide receivers, they look the part. The quarterback, he looks the part. The linebackers really haven't stuck out yet. It'll be interesting to see what they look like in pads. The DBs, at times, they look the part, kind of. The running backs, you look over there, you're like, oh, okay. All right. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what Joe Mixon can be. But that's just where it is right now. Akers used to be really good. Yeah, well, he tore 2 Achilles. I mean, yeah, I know he was a popular fantasy guy. I know he came back in a very short time with the Rams from the first one. But yeah, I mean, it is. I don't think if I'm Akers, and I'm not trying to urinate in the hype of the Texans. I think this can be overcame. It's a strong football team, and they can find a way to run the rock. I think they're going to be very dependent on Mixon. But if I'm Cam Akers and I'm looking around the league and I'm saying, okay, I really want to make a football team, and I want to see where I have the best chance, the Texans are going to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I think they're going to be a really, really good squad. But I'm looking at this and saying, damn, man, I got as good of a chance of getting some run here as I do anywhere else. Again, if the Texans played a football game tomorrow, like if tomorrow's padded practice were a real football game, their running backs, put Akers aside, would be Dameon Pierce, Dare Gumbawale, and Jawar Jordan. Maybe British Brooks. Is running back going to kill us? I don't know if it's going to kill them. I know that they're insistent that they got to run the rock, right? They've said that. Joe Mixon can get the job done. But I mean, DJ Bieneme of ESPN didn't just pull it out of nowhere and say, hey, there's a narrative that running backs between the age of 28 and 32 kind of fall off. I mean, he's a stat geek. So, he brought that up with Mixon. Mixon took exception. Like, if how much are you going to ask Joe Mixon to do? How hurt is he? I don't know. D'Amico seems to think he's fine. I think it's just like one of those, maybe a hamstring or something, calf. I don't know. Someone said that they saw him kind of holding it the other day, kind of rubbing it, pointing to it. But D'Amico doesn't seem too concerned. So, okay, we'll see. Running back position, though, is wild. So thought one was, can Mixon carry the load? Thought two, can Pierce be a quality RB2? Thought three, Cam Akers. Why exactly? Thought four is the Hall of Fame game showcase. I think this is going to be interesting. We're less than 2 weeks, about a week and a half away from the Hall of Fame game in Ohio. And this is one of those games where I don't think we're going to see too many starters. I think there's going to be two things that are going to be very important when it comes to the preseason, and the coaches' evaluation of what they see. Number one is obviously going to be the new kickoff rules. What does it look like? What do they want to do? How are they going to strategize it? How are they going to evaluate that? I think that's interesting. It's going to be the first time that we see that, and it's something that they've never had to deal with. Number two, you're going to get these running backs looks and see how the hell they look. You're not going to go out there and throw the ball all over the field with Tim Boyle, Keenum, and Davis Mills. What do these running backs look like? Can any of them stand out? And you got the extra preseason game, and you got the opportunity to look at that. So I think the Hall of Fame game, like as we talk about these running backs, and really as the pads come on, that's really where their evaluation's going to be. I think it's going to be really, really unsure. It's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like. Thought five about the running back position. The eye test isn't great. And I'll just say this, I know we're only 4 days into camp, but even in the years in which the running back position was bad, and this might be a good thing, honestly, if you really think about it. But even in the years where the running back position wasn't good, you had a lot more like ooh, ah, or explosive moments from running backs. That really hasn't happened this early in camp. I'm sure we'll see it tomorrow. It'll be a lot more clear in pads, but you really haven't seen it. There haven't been very many ooh-ah moments. Dameon Pierce has had a few, but other than that, really hasn't been much. It's just kind of been ho-hum when it comes to the running plays. Again, they're not in pads, but in past practices, there have been more. It's stuck out a little bit more. So we'll see. How much does it matter? How much of a concern should it be? I think it's worth noting. I mean, they were in on Saquon Barkley for a reason, right? They brought in Joe Mixon for a reason. I don't know if the draft went the way that they had hoped it would. We kind of had that running back run on day 3 that perhaps they didn't really anticipate. And maybe there was a guy that they really liked, but I don't know. But they're bringing in a guy coming off 2 torn Achilles who was out there all year long. The guy that they like has now missed 2 days of practice. And Dameon Pierce, he looks more trim, but we don't really know what the running back position will be. The Coyote Fairbairn kickoff thing is an interesting thing to look at as well. It kind of feels like it's almost like a frustrated golfer. H-Town TD bringing it again. My goodness, man. I appreciate you very much. I know the defense looked good today. Do you foresee the offense having another slow start like they did last year, where the O didn't start clicking until third regular season game versus the Jacks? No, I think it's going to be a good offense. It's just a matter of how well are they going to run the rock. But I think it's going to be a good offense for sure. It might be more pass heavy. Maybe the pass can help set up the run. But again, the running back position, it's been a polarizing position. It's been an area of concern in the past. It's going to be an area of concern until really the real game start, and until we see Joe Mixon back on the practice field. There's really no reason to be too concerned as of yet when it comes to Mixon himself. But the running back position, top to bottom, I do think it's something that deserves a little bit of attention. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Myself and Cody Stutes, we are going to do a little pregame leading up to the pads. Stephon Diggs was awesome at the podium. If you haven't looked and checked out that video, please do so. Did a little Jacoby Jones tribute, just a little light something earlier this morning, if you want to check that out as well. And I also have my live practice observations as well. So this is I think this is the 4th video of the day. This is the live stream. We always do this at 10:30. We're sprinkling in the practice stuff throughout camp. We'll have stuff in the morning as well and stuff throughout the day. So trying to get to that 10K that would be a really big accomplishment in less than 2 years, especially with how crappy things were halfway through this. And be sure to like, subscribe, and always remember this most important thing: whether they have a good running back, whether they have a bad running back, whether they have a deep running back room, whether they have a lack of depth at the running back position, whether Dameon Pierce is good, whether he's bad, whether Mixon's healthy or Mixon's not healthy. When it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming.
We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.